morning, everyone, and welcome to the morning coffee. Today, you're going to be joining me for a little bit of a tinfoil hat army things, and also we'll be making a little coffee while we talk about certain things in the market. Again, full disclaimer, this is only dictionary. This is for entertainment purposes. It does get based on real data. Although it's based on real data, it's not meant to be as a fact itself. It is, as stated, a conspiracy theory. Nonetheless, again, let me remind you that this is for entertainment purposes. At the end of this session, we will be taking a look at a couple of coins, metals specifically. And if you have any questions about the indicators that I use, and also any questions on what you might be using, maybe free indicators, how to use premium indicators, how to use free indicators, or anything around the topic that we're going to be looking at today, please let me know on the side chat, the other way around right here, and I'll be very glad to answer any and all of your questions. So guys, join me for a coffee, and I see you on the other way. Good morning, everyone. So first of all, let's get started with what I'm drinking. I already have a shot of coffee right here. Ready to go. I'm not going to be boring you on how I prepare it. Let's just jump right into the topic that I have prepared for you guys. And this is going to be a conspiracy theory. So bear with me while we talk about what's happening in the world and also what I got prepared for you guys. So let's get started with the dollar, maybe dipping as we've been seeing lately, basically talking about the U.S. government being at the edge of defaulting, rising heights, a ton of stuff that might not be looking good at the U.S. government. Nonetheless, what I do believe is that, just as you can see right here on the presentation that I got for you guys, it is that we could be facing a Kansas City shuffle. This Kansas City shuffle, it's basically a play where you get at the seed and then the other part basically taking advantage of what you may be taking a look at or what might be happening in the market. So, all right, what I'm doing right here, I just want to take notice. I added a little bit of non-processed sugar at the top of here. This is a Cuban espresso extraction shot, so I'm just gonna pull this one up here and then wait for the little machine to do its thing. Nonetheless, let me also remind you something very important here, that we're talking about the Twitter post that we've been seeing at this point, and you can see right here the fear and greed index. Usually, and this is not again financial advice, but I mean for the veterans, you may also remember that usually when takes a lot at this kind of indexes to pair with the macroeconomy, right? But most of it all with a quality technical analysis. So let me go for it here. Let's take a look at what I call the Kansas City shuffle. Just give me 1 sec, stay right here with me. Perfect. So what am I talking about with the Kansas City shuffle? Well, you can see right here when Army Piper was talking about the job results on the United States government. Everybody was on fear, and when everybody was read between lines and basically running away from the fear and greed, so we usually stay, right? And if the conditions are correct, well, then we usually take advantage of everybody being fearful and make a trade on that. So let's take a look at this next. What happened after everybody was very fearful. Let's take a look at here. The Kansas City shuffle could be a dollar to be actually getting ready to become or to be back at the king of the world once again, while looking weak to the public eye, make some unexpected movements. And then let's take a look at what has happened recently, because we're taking a look at a couple of points in here. So as you can see in here, we were looking at AMD, Amazon, and Apple. That the day that it actually was announced, that they blew up, right? So basically, they were all moving bullish. the retail stocks markets basically running away from the fear, and we were jumping in couple of trades in there. Okay, so let's take a look at the latest USD moves against the world currencies, right? Because at this point, I'm talking about maybe as a Kansas City shuffle might be happening, which is basically the dollar or the US government looking a little bit weak, but instead it is actually preparing itself for become once again, the hegemony of the world that we know it. Make no mistake, because I'm talking the new economy that we might be having up in front of us, and we may not be realizing that we are being manipulated. So, for example, let's take a look at this. This says the USD versus the Mexican peso. And as you can see right here, look at the bull run that lately we've been having with that coin, right? I mean, as you can see, as you may know already, I'm from Mexico, and usually when the price of the dollar was falling, well, then I wasn't that happy, because since I trade in the markets, I trade mostly on US dollars. So now that it's pumping back up, while supposedly we are at the edge of the cliff, well, let's take a look at the next one. This one, it is CAD against USDT. USD. Yep, understand. Did it? Okay. Sorry, this is JPY. And this JPY is the Japanese coin. Look at also how the last part of the bull run, and it might be a little bit cricket or a little bit off center, but as you can see at the at the bottom right of it, we are getting a very nice bounce. Let's move into the next one. Now this is the CAD, so Canadian dollar, and as you can see again, bottom right, basically making a great move. The US dollar making a great comeback against the Canadian dollar. Let's take a look at the next one, CHF, and let's see what do we have on CHF. Again, look at that, how is it moving, and it's looking fabulous. I mean, this is kind of like amazing, guys, right? Now, can you see what I'm talking about when I say that we might be getting back at the top in here? And this is only the top of the iceberg, right? So at this point, since July, we've seen the US dollar gaining some strength, but make no mistake, I'm not expecting this to happen overnight, right? I mean, on these examples, let's take a look at a battle of titans, and I'm talking about China versus the United States. Here we go. So bear with me, guys, because it's time for me to do another kind of like a little thing here. I'm gonna be performing my no, here we go. What is it? Oh, repeat the other way around. Here we go. The miss that I have here. So stay bear with me and say here with me. So let's take a look at right now we're seeing it's the United States versus China. So let's take a look at the next one here. China, along with Japan's, they have been gathering most of the debt that the U.S. has produced. As you can see here, they might be even gathering 1/4, if I'm not mistaken, of the total debt of the bonds of the government of the United States between China and Japan. So, I mean, we might be taking a look at since 20, what was it? 20, what is this chart saying? 2000, okay. 2000 to 2023. Look at that, how from 2000s eras, basically we start gathering a ton of bonds on the U.S. government, right? So, okay, with you guys again, a little bit up on this coffee. It's almost ready here. So, this is for me. And I know I'm making a mess, sorry with that, but bear with me here. And this is for my lovely fiance that's helping me in the backstage. Give me 1 second. So, all right, let's focus in here and start drinking the coffee while we get into the real interesting things that might be happening in the market. And it's a ton of information. That's what I have by cheating here. So bear with me because this is going to get pretty ugly pretty quickly. So China and Japan are the biggest U.S. partners at this point, right? Not just because of the exports and imports of goods, but also because of how much U.S. Treasury holdings they have. Let's take a look at the next one in here, which is number 13. And make sure that we're at 13. Here we go. Perfect. But what is more impressive is the rate as with China, it's selling It's selling them since around 2019 or 2020, since a little bit of a misunderstanding, let's just call it that way, right, with the Trump administration. And as you can see in this section, I mean, it's pretty alarming in how fast they're selling their treasury bonds. But what could be happening? Remember that if they have a ton of bonds and they sell it at once, what would it happen? Well, but maybe the U.S. government may not have enough cash, right, to pay back those bonds and might be defaulting on those paid. Remember, at the end of it all, those bonds are created based on debt, right? So, guys, cheers. Give me one sec. Ooh, pretty hot. All right, next one. Here we go. Let's take a look at this one. And this one says, so China, perfect. So China holding on treasuries. Here we go. So 821,000 US bonds, not dollars, but bonds on July 2023. This records a decrease from the previous numbers of 835,400 US bonds from June 2023. China holdings of the US Treasury securities data is updated monthly, averaging a ton of money. Here we go. We have a 1,028,700 US bonds from March 2000, right, when we were talking about, to July 2023. So as you can see, they are decreasing the amount of bonds. So they start buying a ton. And why did they buy a ton? Well, they bought a ton of bonds because they were a developing country. So since the United States was needing on money, on cash flow, they bought it, and they in return get the interest. Remember, they get they are, I believe, they have a mixture between long-term bonds and short-term bonds, right? So by the China government getting back those dollars, they could basically add to their expenses of government expenses, basically injecting that much money into their own economy without having to sacrifice whatever they collected from taxes. Because remember, usually, and I'm saying this also with being very cautious, not to mislead anyone, because depends on the country. But usually, the only income of a government, it is their taxes, right? Then we have other varieties, like, for example, in Mexico, where Mexico owns companies like Pemex, like CFB for electricity. Well, then they make a profit out of those and they add it to the public expenses, right? So by moving this kind of money or acquiring this kind of bonds, the China government was able not to touch or add to whatever they could be gathering for expenses, and then spend it on public debt. So then at the first glance, it could seem to be a bad thing for the US government by China selling out those bonds, right? Remember that between Japan and China, they hold 2 trillion, guys, 2 trillion. So basically more than a quarter of the US debt, right? And this is where things get interesting, because at this point, we could be seeing maybe China manipulating the market, right? And making the US hurt, right? Or make them bleed. But this is where kind of the things get a little bit twisted. But before we jump at that, let me finish this thought. So basically, the bonds that they contribute to the main public expenses of China, what I was telling you guys, right? So recently, it has been selling like crazy. So please, let's go to this number 16. Here we go. Is China deleveraging? Deleveraging? I mean, are they running out, or they're trying to deleverage out of the States because maybe the States are talking about defaulting? Well, that could be also one of the main parts of the players in here. But also, let's remember that China is part of the BRICS, and the BRICS are planning to make a common, let's call it a commonwealth, a common currency, something that they can participate and buy and sell goods between them. Remember, it's India, China, Russia, and other countries around that area, Saudi Arabia, I believe so. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Excuse me for that. But what they're talking about and what they've been doing is they've been using gold or basically goods, like, for example, gold, silver, and oil, to purchase and do commerce between them all. And then they also have been using not only the yuan, but also the Indian currency or the Indian currency. So, well, didn't think so. I don't think that China, it is actually the leveraging. Well, then, in a part, they are very confident on what they're doing. But this is kind of like one tip. Hey, give me 1 sec for it. Of course, that's fine for me to bring this. Because remember, guys, I know this is funny, but this is the way for me to tell you guys, this is not financial advice. You should not be taking this as a real fact for you to trade. This is for entertainment purposes. And besides, I do my own analysis. You need to do yours. And you need to basically know whether if you're going to be taking this as a fact or not. As my part, this is only for entertainment purposes, right? Well, then I don't think that China is actually deleveraging, because if we can start taking a look at what's happening, well, then China is increasing their holdings on currency, on the actual currency, right? So what I do believe it is that, and I was saying that maybe BRICS will never, and this is where I'm wearing this, will never substitute the US dollar. Why? Because, I mean, the US currency, when in its cash form, it is the one most used to pay for nefarious things. All around the world, guys, all around the world. Remember that the US currency, it is the world's currency so far, right? So, between countries, there is also, and I'm not saying that they're moving cash, which they do, because we'll see at the end with a little perk how they're after the actual sweet cash, right? Physical cash. But also, between countries, there is a transactions made on the US. That's where we take a look at how do you buy petrol, right? How do you buy oil? How do you buy gasoline? How do you get all this kind of stuff? Well, you buy them with the US currency. So let me put this aside and let's take a look at the next one here. China depends on the bands of the bonds, and of the US government, right? So what happens if the US start defaulting? It means a loss on their public expenses. What they basically will, what they were getting, well, then now they're not, right? So China is doing great with BRICS, what we're talking about, right? And building up a bit of confidence, but make no mistake. And this is what I was telling you guys, right? Make no mistakes, because I don't believe that the BRICS will be actually substituting the US currency anytime soon because of China's restriction. I mean, at the end of it all, guys, remember that China basically bullies their own people. I mean, if you comment something against the China party or something like that, that they don't like, they can, I mean, since everything is going like Fed now, I don't know, like Fed now, and I'm not saying this, it just came out, slip out of my mouth. Remember, this is only for entertainment purposes, right? They can control every single penny that their public expense or their population expense. So if they say something that they don't want, well, maybe their their currency of those persons will not be working for maybe buying, I don't know, meat. Maybe they cannot pay for their rent, right? Maybe their money expires, right? Maybe many other things that previously seems to be impossible now are happening. And this is not fiction. This is happening on mainland China. So yeah, the US plays to be the weak one in here. And getting back into the explanation in here, well, then I do believe that the US is playing the weak one in here. Basically saying, well, we're going to be trying to default. We're going to be trying not to default. We're going to be trying to do as much as we can. And at the last second, guys, they always take their right curve, right? The right move. I mean, of course, I think you might be also with me thinking that there could be a better way. But at the end of it all, we are not in the ditch, right? Because remember, if the US government falls, and I'm not saying like completely crash, but start doing bad, the whole world or the whole Eastern world will do bad. I mean, we've seen that in Europe. I do see it in Mexico. We can see it on South America, right? So Central America, South America, and even Mexico, which is part of North America. So we can start seeing what might be happening. But always at the end of it all, makes a turn that it is not the worst case scenario, right? And I think I want to emphasize on that because that is important, because that's where I believe the U.S. It's playing the weak one, but take advantage of the new world monetary system run by blockchain. And I think you did not expect that, right? I mean, at the end of it all, banks are not doing blockchain, but what is Fed now? Isn't it a digital currency? Aren't banks doing digital already? So think of this. All that banks have, it's a database. It's basically you get paid, enters to a bank's database, right? You spend, it gets out of the database and gets sent where to different address, which are accounts. So what happens with the blockchain technology comes in? Isn't it obvious that the banks are actually the ones using them? And I'm not talking about the itty bitty banks. I'm talking about the national banks. I'm talking about the big entities. I'm talking about, like those industries that are huge, just like a country, right? So that's what I'm talking about. So blockchain technology now. So how do we take out money out of the current system and put it back into the new one? And we do that by transforming credits into expenses into goods or cash, and then remaking the circle, but comes out of one and goes back in. And I believe that the pandemic could have been one of those movements where you get strangled and you need to be actually fed money from the government or use your own funds to start making a living without using the previous monetary system. Again, this is on me, guys. This is not proven. I have no proof. I have no doubts, right? All right, guys. So talking about the blockchain and what could be happening also with that, that we also can take a look at that the U.S. is actually doing well by not defaulting under debt, as we were talking about. Yes, it raises the ceiling, but again, it has also stopped printing money, and this is important, guys. It has also stopped printing money and raises the interest rates. At the end, the U.S. currency, the cash, is the only one that makes a possible nefarious transactions. Where we're talking about, remember, cash is actually untraceable. It's the only asset that is 100% untraceable. Well, not 100% untraceable, nothing, it's 100%. But if you take a look at the blockchain, that is traceable. That is traceable, right? I mean, at the end of it all, you could actually use AI or something to start finding patterns and basically trace both, cash and crypto, but crypto will be much, much easier to do. So at the end, the U.S. currency, all right, we're talking about this one. This means that it needs to circulate back so that at the end, the U.S. currency, the cash, is the only one that is possible to do transactions, and also through digital transactions between countries, right? At the end of it all, it belongs to the U.S. government. This money belongs to the U.S. government. This means it needs to circulate back to the central bank unless someone is holding it. You see that? So, what will it? Well, then, now we already have talked about that China, it's been selling the bonds, but has also stated that they have global currency reserves. The speculation tells us that they're increasing the US dollars money, basically the cash. They're holding on the cash. So what would that be? Well, what would China is getting US dollars by selling the debt that previously get them interest? Well, this is exactly where we should be putting our eyes and where that Kansas City shuffle could be happening, guys, right? I think China knows, despite looking like he is hurting or damaging the U.S. economy, because you can see that they're selling, and by selling, they're weakening the U.S. economy, right? So they're pretty confident, but they also need a plan B. They're smart. So just calling them that. They are pretty smart, right? So they need a plan B. So what could go wrong? Well, then let's hold cash at this point, right? At the end, there are less dollars in the market. Remember, they are stopped printing, and they also, what's happening when China sells back to the US government? Well, then they are paying debt, and China and Japan both hold over 40% of that debt, right? So there is less cash because they're not printing. There is less people spending because of the rate hikes, right? There is also, what else? There is also the US government paying their debt, right? So despite it tells us everywhere in media, well, we don't know if we're going to make it. They do, right? I mean, they do. At the end of the day, they do, right? So at the end, there are less dollars in the market, and also US being able to buy back those China's sell-off, right? At your expenses. Did you know expected that, right? Well, does Fed now seems like it? Again, this is only for extreme purposes. Well, remember who owns the banks and the stock market? Who? Pretty dark stone, right? All right. So, what could it happen now? Well, remember that the US government can limit the amount of money being expended by their US citizens, right? Spending only in US local, but also preventing the international purchases. And this is important, guys, because what's happening here, it is that if you can manage where your main economy it's exporting or exporting your currency, like if you buy from China, you're exporting your currency. You're getting goods from China by giving them the cash or money, which they can actually cash out there in a way, right? But if you can control that, well, then you might also kick back as whoever is selling you back your own debt, which is China at this point, right? Let's take a look at the number. Well, then by making you pay more for Chinese products, also remember that we have rising, or the United States government on the Trump administration has been rising the amount of restrictions on Chinese products, right? And also encasing their public into not using cash, that whatever they cash they can get, they hold it, and then they make you spend digital, right? They can finely tune where you are spending your money. Remember, at the end of it all, if the ports are closed, like the pandemic, well, then you need to buy locally, right? So let's go into the number 18 right here. Do not believe me. This year, it is the first where China, it is not the most important importing and exporting U.S. partner. Take a look at this graph. What is it telling you? Who is the most important import and export? At this point, Mexico took that place. Basically, guys, Mexico takes the first place with the U.S. knocking on the door of an unregulated, almost cash only, right? $1 trillion U.S. Economy. 1 trillion, guys, making it almost the fourth most important economy. If the whole Latin American was one single country or one single cluster, like Europe is, right? So, how much was the debt of the states again? How much does China holds again? I think it's less than 1 trillion, isn't it? So by tapping into an unregulated, almost cash only with a ton of informal workers, basically there's a ton of cash to be made there, or a ton of US dollar to be collected, which they then can buy back the debt by not defaulting and being able to pay, basically making the doorway through Mexico through the whole South America, right? So let's go to the 19 here. And what do we have in here? So as you can see, it is a $6 trillion economy, right? I mean, I was wrong on that. So 6 trillion there. All right, let's go to number 20. This is the U.S. intervention on Latin America, where most amount of cash is moved. Can you see now the tendency of collecting those sweet bills? And this point here, yes, this is US intervening on South America. I'm not judging, I'm just presenting a couple of information in here. So why would the states be so interested on intervene on the governments on South America and now displacing China from being their main partner? Now Mexico take their place and not only buying back the debt that China had, right? But tapping in Mexico and the whole South America zone. Well then, does El Salvador rings any bells? I don't know. It's just a time for you guys there. So let's go to 21, please. And maybe we can escape from all of this, right? Come on, guys. BTC might be the world-changing currency, isn't it? No, it is not. Sorry to tell, but it is not. I'm a strong believer that we have a slight chance to make it happen, but it is not. And let me present you a couple of facts. Like the centralization of BTC, right? Of course. Who owns BTC? Maybe no one. Maybe the miners, right? Remember that 51% attack? Well then, yes, who owns the mining pools? The most important mining pools, guys. Guess who owns them? Guess also who owns most of the enterprises that they're selling goods to Latin America, right? Let's also compare how much money total crypto is. Any guesses? Let me know right here. Go on. How much money, how much market capitalization the whole crypto market is it? Well, how much capitalization does the Forex market is it? Do you see the difference? Geez, crypto is only a toy for now, right? Does it have the potential? Yes. But you and I need to make those decisions that take power off this little guy in here that might be climbing up to the neck of all of us soon. Be careful, right? So, let's move into the next one. Now, guess who owns all of this? Well then, the next one, everybody has been talking about, guess this stuff, some of you know? We're talking about gold. Yeah, so we're on gold right now. Remember how everybody was telling us, well, China is buying gold, Russia is collecting gold, this and this gold. And now, what is Costco selling at their stores? Who? What? Gold? To who? And what do they sell it for? The gold. US dollars. So they're getting rid of the gold and telling you, hey, you should be buying gold. And what's happening with the gold price? Don't get me wrong. I'm into a gold trade already. I am. But I'm trading it. I'm not holding it. And they're pushing the gold through our throats at this point, right? But maybe gold has been something important. Why? Because the importance on the industry. Maybe everybody wants gold, maybe jewelry. But in a recession, who's holding jewelry? Well, then they might be hold gold. But let's take a look at the next one, and let's see the same time frame, right? Guess what this is? This is an essential market metal. This is aluminum or aluminium, however you want to call it. Look at how is it behaving compared to gold. Would you be rather up buying gold or buying aluminum? Or aluminium? I don't know. You tell me. This is the chart. So guys, let's move back to the charts and let's take a look at what you guys have to tell me. And also, let's take a look at a couple of things that maybe this guy might not have their clothes on. So, go on. Wait, let me cambiar it. Hello guys, I'm back in here. Please let me know if you can hear me correctly. And let me read you guys in here. How many are we? 9 in the channel. All right. Seems like we're a little bit few in here. But let's move into the charts right now. And let's take a look at what we have. Yes, I know. I was transmitting on my phone. Sorry, I don't have a mobile microphone. But yeah, I'll try to get one. All right, guys. So I'm reading you guys. Can you guys tell me what we should be taking a look at now? So we can maybe take a look at the gold trade that we have on. So, here we go. So we have aluminum in here. I promise that we're going to be taking a look at gold. So let's go over gold. basically we are already nailing that trade. We've been looking for that trade for a couple of days. So for the past week, right? So we just entered on the 4-hour time frame where it was, all of the signals were correct. It make us wait for a little bit. Nonetheless, we should be already in profits, moving our stop loss to entry. So once again, guys, this is a great trade that we took. Let's compare it to aluminum. So aluminum, look at that. So I would like to take a look at aluminum on daily and also make sure, guys, that we just have a strong uptrend. Guys, veterans here, where do we enter when we have an uptrend? Do we enter on the signal or where exactly? We enter on the retrace, and that retrace is happening right now. Look at where is it, basically a dynamic reactor and volume flex reactor. The only thing that we might be able just to wait for, it is the what? FOR, right? Flip of the ribbon for a confirmation. So flip up the ribbon at support for entries. Here we go. Look at that beautiful number 1 entry. So we might be able to see a movement like that. So we need to be patient in that. This could be a great trade that we might be able to enter. Again, this is not financial advice. This is what I'll be doing on the market. So guys, shoot me up with something that you are looking at, or if you want me to take a look at something differently. In the meantime, let's take a look at the 4-hour trade on RH. I know it's weekend, but where did we left that trade? And this was a suggestion for Falcon. What's up? Look at that TP. First TP, then what else? TP number 2, waiting for that. So again, we are on basically not being able now to anymore because our stop, right, where we have taken profits already. And we're waiting for the next reaction. Again, at this point, because of daily, we're waiting for the Wyckoff pattern to appear. If you don't know what the Wyckoff pattern is, what are you waiting for? Go subscribe and join all the classes that we explain what the Wyckoff pattern is. We trade with a trade-layer strategy. We also do complex analysis, and then we follow up all and every single trade that you guys want me to. So yeah, JPY USD, absolutely, Richie. Let's take a look at JPY and USD, right? Just take a look at here. As you can see, I was looking at it, and at the 4-hour, let's take it. Let's see. We're still pretty bearish, breaking through here, but I do believe that we could be having a bouncing here, right? At the end of it all, remember that dollar versus JPY, JPY or yen, it's sideways or the other way around. So in this case, we're shorting this market, right? Yes, please, absolutely, after this one. So let's take a look at what's happening here. We need to find some support and resistances. So let's turn on our main support and resistances. Or here we go. Let's look here. All right, we have them on. No resistance, no support so far in this section. So let's start using some tools. Look at that. We have a breakthrough, a pattern here. We're bouncing off an order block. We could be bouncing back up for a retest. And now if we go to this area, let's turn on other tools in here. I see that we have support. Look at where we have support on the trend. Let's take a look at how is it called, the prime ranges. Sorry, I was saying the trend assistance, but sorry, that was the trend ranges. So trend ranges right at that support. Look at that. Could be going for that flip up, maybe going back down as we find flip of the ribbon. Again, guys, we're talking about flip of the ribbon daily, double bottom from October. Let's take a look at that. Maybe you're talking about this one, this little double bottom. Nice. I see it. Perfect. So very bearish, consolidation score very high, so we could be seeing a range in here. All right, so let's take a look at ES, and then we're gonna be wrapping it up. So ES, and let's take a look at daily, bouncing back up right at resistance. It's not about the breakout, it's about the retest, and we're waiting, and we are below below the zero lag on the oscillator, below dynamic reactor, below number 3 resistance, below number 3 resistance, below number 3 resistance. So basically, we have a huge resist bit in here. Yes, we have a tiny itty bitty more to move on. So we could be maybe expecting a fake out. Make sure you, if we have that fake out, that we wait for that retest. Again, this is not financial advice. This is only the way that I trade it, and I'm going to be trading it. And if you want to follow up, please make your own analysis first. All right, guys. So let's do a quick standalone here. So much for joining this this morning coffee. Hopefully, guys, you liked it. I see we have 10 members here. So, guys, please let me know whether you like it or not. Let me know if I have room to improve, because I'm always looking to make a better show for you guys, to predict a ton more coins. And again, remember that we have Monday to Saturday shows on the premium area. We have Monday class, Tuesday Q&A class, Thursday TA talk, Wednesday, Thursday advanced class, Friday follow-up, and then Saturday's morning coffee. So guys, if you haven't joined yet, take a look at it. Remember that you can find some coupons on the pre-recorded sessions, so make sure you go look for those on YouTube channel for Chart Prime. Take a look for those or search for those coupons. And guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a great morning coffee. See you guys on Monday. Bye. Rigi, I said cheers, OC. Thank you. Before we ended up, I see you have also you have a analysis in there. We'll take a look at that in a second. I think it's worth taking a look at that one. So let me open the link in here, and then live scene. Here we go. And possible trade to the downside. Be careful. The Japanese yen on October 7. What is it? 1 week. All right. We are at a support zone. So yep. Be careful, because that is a whole week thing, right? So I rather take a look at what's happening. Yes, weekly. So I rather take a look at what's happening on the 4 hour. So again, guys, thank you so much for participating here, and see you guys on Monday.